Hello, Black women. So I was sitting in my bed journaling this morning, basically trying to write the Thanksgiving leftovers out of my bloodstream. And I thought something, and then I wrote something that basically made me stop mid sentence, go, whoa, and has inspired this entire video. What I wrote down was most people are not actually looking for change. They are looking for a loophole that lets them remain themselves while avoiding the consequences of remaining themselves. So the minute I wrote it, I was like, okay, go ahead and gather myself and as well gather everybody else on the internet. Y'all get to be gathered as well, too. It made me think of how we often will say that we want to be better, do better, but the way we want to get it doesn't require us to shift or stretch or evolve or listen, release, change, nothing different. We want new blessings while staying loyal to our old self. Mm. We want to have a different outcome, but we want to treat change like it's optional in creating that outcome. Let's be honest. Where in your life are you asking yourself, professing to others, praying for? There's a lot of praying in this space and pontificating about some transformation, but you are still protecting the you and the habits and the choices and the mindsets that created the situation you're trying to get out of. Yeah. So that's what this video is going to be about tonight. All right. The entire video is going to be for the women, me included, who's ready to create a different future, but keeps carrying her current self and behaviors into it and wondering why nothing is different. Let's talk about why change without changing ourselves is not a possibility, and what actually shifts when you decide to become the woman that your future needs you to be. Hey everyone, my name is Rashni Cope, also known as Glamazini. I am a certified life coach, a content creator, and I help Black women heal, amplify their gifts, and create lives they love that love them back. If you're new here or if you're true here, leave a pineapple emoji in the comment section. Let me know where you're watching from. I am in St. Louis, Missouri, and I am live on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It is 7:30 p.m. I'm usually here on 12:30. CST. That's not English. At 12:30 CST on Fridays. You guys, let me be honest with you. My life is to and fro with every wind of doctrine. You can even see that I'm in a different position in the same room. Like usually my desk is this way, and now I'm this way. And the Friday at 12:30 time is not exactly working the best for me right now. So I may have to change it, but I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to change it to. So until then, rock with me. Listen, follow me as I follow Christ. Okay. We're going to make it happen. Also, a little bit of housekeeping before I go on. If you already feel a nudge to be a different you, create a different season, and you need support for the new year and the new you that you're creating, my Create Your Life virtual planning retreat starts on December 12th. The link is on the screen, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. It's a full week of self-paced coaching modules, Zoom calls, audios, videos, downloadable resources, all the things. And then after that week, you get 10 monthly group accountability calls with the other participants. So if you already know that you're interested, visit bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. Do I have I do. Here it is too, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. And let me see if I can find it to put it in the, this is not the best, but we make it do what it do. I'm gonna put it in the comments for you guys too on the platforms so that you can just click the link. Maybe I should do this, HTTP. Fun fact, the price is going up on Monday, December 1st, which is this Monday, you guys, and it will never be that price again. So if you have always wanted to do my planning retreat with me, now is the time, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. All right, so let's talk about what inspired this video. I'm journaling. I'm trying to get into doing morning pages. If you've ever read the book The Artist's Way, the author tells you to sit down and do like a brain dump every morning, right? So I'm doing said brain dump. I'm trying to do it consistently in 2026, and I thought ain't no time like the present to start. So I've already kind of started fitting it into my morning and seeing how it works. So I'm just pouring out my little heart, trying to get the Thanksgiving leftovers out of my system. And yesterday, I did not eat keto. Yesterday was Thanksgiving. I did not eat keto. I know you're like, what does that mean, Rushni? Who eats keto on Thanksgiving? Me. Okay. Several of the past Thanksgivings, the majority of my past Thanksgivings, I have eaten a ketogenic Thanksgiving. How did you do that? Over the pandemic, we had the liberty of nobody else being around and figuring it out. And fun fact, when we hosted Thanksgiving last year, a lot of the things were keto. People tasted them and they were like, whoa, this is amazing. And listen, boomers were giving us good reviews. So you know it was good. Anyway, that's not the point. Yesterday's food was not keto at all. Yesterday was just regular black person Thanksgiving and it was delicious. Okay. And I ate it. All right. I had mac and cheese. That is not ketogenic. Okay. I had mac and cheese. I had two servings of mac and cheese. Okay. I had egg pie. I had caramel cake. All right. Somebody made little chocolate shots. It was amazing. Okay. Anyway, this morning when I woke up, my body was like, girl, we did not agree to that. Cease and desist. Okay. So I'm sitting there trying to get my life together and trying to figure out what's going on with me while I scribble in my journal. Right. And I don't eat like that. So when I do eat like that, I feel it in my body. Right. And then I started thinking to myself, there's so many people that eat like this on a regular basis. I don't mean Thanksgiving food. I mean like not keto, carb heavy or something like that, sugary foods or whatever. And they're struggling with so many things, right? They're struggling with things in their mind, their energy, their focus, their mood, their sleep, whatever, their hormones, all of that. I can feel the difference in my body between when I eat like that and I don't eat like that, right? So, for example, the glycemic index is spiking and I can feel the inflammation in my body, right? But they may not be able to feel the difference, or they feel the difference, but they have not connected the cause and effect, the A and the B, right? And when they ask me and I suggest things that they could change, they often will express that they don't want to make that change, but they want to get the result, right? And that's when the thought, and I scribbled down, most people are not actually looking for change. They're looking for a loophole that lets them remain themselves while avoiding the consequences of remaining themselves. Anywho, after I had that thought, I sat there thinking, oh my goodness, that's so interesting. That's curious. That's definitely information. And it's also not true just about our food, right? It's not true just about me and my Thanksgiving meal and how it makes me feel, my digestion and carbs and all of that. That concept, that sentiment pertains to our life. Most people are not actually looking for change. They're just looking for a loophole or a hack that lets them stay exactly the same and hopefully get different results and not the consequences of staying exactly the same, right? It it not just affects or pertains to life, it pertains to the choices that people make, and it pertains to who people are, their identity, right? It's about all the places in your life where people tell you that, or you say that you want to be better, you want to show up better, but you only want to do it on your terms, right? You only want to do it inside your comfort zone. You don't want to have to change at all. I always talk about fruit and roots and all that. People want the fruit, but they don't want the roots. Right. So anyway, that whole thing with the journal this morning and the Thanksgiving food making me have information and pain and foggy brain made me ponder how common it is for us to say that we want a different experience while holding on to the habits and the coping mechanisms, the beliefs and the choices that literally created and create the situation we're trying to get away from. And if we're all honest, there are so many places in our life where we treat transformation like it's a buffet. We want to have peace, but we don't want to have boundaries, right? We want to have rest, but we don't want to change our schedule. We want to create a new life, but we uh, want it to keep having our old patterns and our old choices. And we want to keep having our old reactions and our old fears and keep maintaining all the old relationships. So I sit there thinking it's wild to me how we will pray for change and still carry our old identity into the new season that we have, hoping that things will just magically work out. In that moment, my body was giving me real time feedback. This was with the food, right? My body was telling me that my baseline has shifted and I don't eat like that anymore. I don't feel like that anymore. I don't make those types of choices, right? And not just that, my body knows who I'm becoming, even if I chose yesterday to negotiate with it and eat a whole bunch of macaroni and cheese. All right. But my baseline has shifted. And when your baseline has shifted and you are making different choices, there will be consequences when you slip back into your old patterns. And no, I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about rest. I'm talking about joy. I'm talking about peace. Talking about relationships, right? I think that's why that aha hit me so hard. It's just the fact that I could feel the difference so clearly. Um, it was evidence that when you are healing, healing creates and requires contrast. It was evidence that growth will give you a new sensitivity to the patterns that previously harmed you, right? My body was telling me the truth, even though my mind told me I could eat the stuff. And it made me really land on the fact that nothing will change unless I change it. And the same is true for you. Nothing will change for you unless you change. So, that moment of me journaling um, made me think about how often we try to avoid changing ourselves. We want new outcomes, but we don't want to change our identity. We want to feel different. We want something different to happen, but we do not want to choose anything different. We want to stay the same, right? We cling to like an old version of ourselves, but that old version of ourselves can't actually sustain and maintain the new version of ourselves that we are actually trying to create. We want transformation, but we don't want to do any transforming in ourselves. Right? We have old patterns, we're begging for new results. Anyway, so that was why this whole idea came up about why is it that we want change without changing ourselves? So now let me tell you why this whole idea matters, right? One thing about a human being is we will want relief, we'll want peace, we'll want breakthrough. You know what I mean? We want to glow up and all the stuff they say on the internet, new year, new me, and all of this, right? But we want to do that while staying exactly the same as we've always been. If we want a new life and we cling to our old identity, it's like trying to stay in your comfort zone and thinking that something different is going to happen. If you want a new year, new you, but you have old you, old patterns, nothing is going to change. We want softness, but we keep choosing stress. We want rest, but we keep volunteering for other people's chaos. We want new habits, but we defend our old ones. We want transformed lives, but we want to stay the exact same women. And this is not a judgment, okay? This is, we have all done this. I have done this, which is why I was like, let me make a video about this. This is just an observation for somebody who wants to choose differently. We don't resist change because it's hard. We resist change because it threatens who we have been. It threatens the version of us that actually got us to this point. And that identity is so familiar, even if it's exhausting and it's trying to take you out. So we will say we want to feel better, and we keep employing the coping mechanisms that helped us survive a past we're trying to get away from. We'll say stuff like we want to be less overwhelmed, but we keep choosing to participate in roles and responsibilities that make us overwhelmed, right? We'll say we want deeper relationships, but then we still choose to communicate like we're afraid and we won't speak up, right? What do the kids on the TikTok say? They say everybody wants a village and nobody wants to be a villager, right? We'll say things like we want peace, but then we still live like a woman who thinks she has to prove her usefulness to feel worthy. So the truth is, a lot of us are saying one thing and doing something entirely different, right? And nothing's going to change unless you change. So you can write affirmations. You can scribble down the words 100 times in your journal. I receive abundance. This comes to me. But if you actually live your life like a woman who feels guilty for resting, like a woman who has no boundaries, like a woman who feels guilty for asking for help, she feels guilty for receiving from others, then the abundance that you keep scribbling down has no place to land. That's the part of us that gets stuck. That's the part of us that won't change. Most of us were not taught an identity allowed, an identity that would actually work to create a life that we love. We were taught to perform. We were taught to survive. We were taught to adapt. We were taught to be agreeable and flexible and silent and strong. You know how that is. Be quiet, but also we're quiet and we're loud. The contradiction, right? We were taught to be productive. We were taught to be palatable. We were taught to factor in other people's comfort at our own expense. So, when the moment comes for us to actually create and become someone new, to make different choices, that creation and that becoming can actually feel like betrayal. It can feel like disobedience. You can actually feel unsafe and like you're in danger. But here's the thing, you can't walk into 2026 with a 2023 mindset and expect something different to happen. Nothing's different. Nothing's going to happen, right? You can't carry your old patterns and your mama's patterns and your grandmother's patterns and all of your survival patterns into a season that you're trying to build and think anything different is going to occur. You can't build peace while still thinking like a woman who feels unsafe if she's not busy. You can't build rest while still being a person who equates stillness with laziness. You can't build a grounded life while thinking like a woman who's trained to earn her keep. Most people say they want to change, but what they really want is comfort, right? Real change requires some discomfort. Real change will stretch you, it will confront you, it provides contrast, it exposes places in you that are unhealed and that you have to make a new decision. It asks you to actually release versions of yourself that have been running the show for decades and that have been keeping you stuck, right? You're asking for a miracle, but that miracle can't happen if you are still operating from your old mindset. The life you want, the life you journal about, the life you tell people about, the life you daydream about, the life you envision, the one that, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're just like, one day I will XYZ, that life actually requires a different version of you. Not a perfect version of you, not some magical aspirational version of you. It requires a honest, aligned, present, awake, intentional, decisive version of you that actually makes choices and then acts on those choices, even if they're small ones. Listen, not even, especially if they're small ones, because it all doesn't have to be some big to do, right? I've learned that creating a life that I love is in the small choices. That's the real reason that people want change without changing. They realize that when they evolve, they have to leave an old version of them behind, right? And a lot of us actually say we want to have a different life, but we're afraid to leave her behind because that's the version of us that got us through. That's the version of us that was a soldier. She was a fixer. Okay, she was a survivor. She was a peacekeeper. She held a family together, right? She stayed quiet to avoid the chaos, right? She rewarded herself with a little sweet treat before bed because she did all that hard hustling all day. What do you mean I got to let her go? Letting her go feels like I'm losing control. Who am I without all of these negative choices that are actually creating the life I don't want to live? But here's the thing, keeping her around and keeping her in charge, I'll say that, is costing you your future because nothing shifts unless you shift it. Nothing changes until you change it. That's why this video is so important for me to make right now because we're at the end of the year and this is that time of the year where everybody starts getting all aspirational and oh my God, I'm going to do a whole different thing. Let me tell you something. If you want 2026 to be any different than 2025 was, you have to walk into 2026 a different you, right? I put this section in my notes because I was sitting there when I was coming up with this video and I was like, somebody is out there talking about, well, you know what? I'm going to change when they change. Sis, this section's for you, okay? That type of thinking is the biggest trap on the planet and it is a fool's errand, okay? I'm not going to let them talk to me that way. I'm going to yell back, right? I'll rest when the kids are out of high school and they don't need me as much. I have to do all this work because nobody else is showing up for me. So who else is going to do it? I'll heal and take care of that when my life calms down. I'll X when they Y, when it Ys, right? Outsourcing it to somebody else. Let me tell you something with my whole chest. I have lived that life. I have waited for other people to shift. I have waited for other people to grow and evolve and to mature and to be more accountable and to regulate and rise, thinking that their thing would unlock something in my world, that their healing was going to somehow give me some nirvana, right? And I put my life on pause, waiting until they whatever, almost like I needed their permission to live the life that I wanted. And you know what I realize about that now at 49, breathing on 50's neck? That was an imagination. Every single instance where a past version of me thought that I was betting on something that didn't even exist, a version that they never showed me and did not exist. And so, my advice to you at my age, younger or even older, is do not do that. It will not change anything. No one is going to change unless they want to, including you. I don't care if you beg them. I don't care if you shame them. I don't care if you figure it out and explain it to them. I don't care what reason, what emotion you use. If you decide you're going to use tough love, there's literally only one thing that makes another person change. You know what it is? It's the same thing that makes you change. What's that, Rashni? It's the realization that you want to change. That's literally the only time it's going to happen. That person will change when they decide to change. You have nothing to do with when they're going to change. You only have to do with when you're going to change. Nothing in your life will change until you change it. So waiting on somebody else to do something so that you can have the healed life that you love is an imagination and it is a thief. It will rob you of years. It will rob you of energy. It'll rob you of joy. It'll rob you of clarity. It'll rob you of self-trust. It'll rob you of self-respect. Okay? And it'll rob you of your identity because you won't know who you are because you're so hinged on that person. When you tie your healing and your evolution to somebody else's choices and behaviors, you are handing them the key to your future for no reason. You let their stuckness and their avoidance and their resistance become the ceiling of the life that you can create. You cannot become a woman living a life she loves while waiting for somebody else, a whole other adult. Let me put that because typically it's adults. Sometimes it's not, but most of the time it's adult. While waiting for a whole other adult to do something they may never do. Nothing will change unless you change, not them. The moment that you say, I will change when they change, you have surrendered your life to theirs. All right. You end up spending your life hoping that somebody else's breakthrough will unlock something for you and managing them and abandoning yourself. Just living in la la land. Okay. You cannot outsource your becoming. If you want something to be different tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, next week, next month, next season, next year, you, my friend, have to choose it regardless of who does and does not get on board. Changing your life is your responsibility. Changing their life is theirs. Healing is your responsibility. Growth is your responsibility. Your joy is your responsibility. Nobody else's. Your boundaries are your responsibility. Your choices are your responsibility. Your changes are your responsibility. Your future is your responsibility. Do not let somebody else's stagnation be the reason that you miss your transformation. Speak up anyway. Show up anyway. Grow anyway. Shift anyway. Choose anyway. The life that you're trying to create can't wait on someone else who may not ever be ready to meet you there. Right? Okay, so back to the Thanksgiving food examples, because I even feel it a little bit now. Like I'm trying to have this video with you guys, and the way the carbohydrates have me kind of feeling like this still. Like I've been doing stuff to regulate my system today, and I'm feeling a lot better. But boy, that eating of the mac and cheeses, okay, and the dressing still has my brain swimming a bit. But we're gonna make it through this video. So back to the Thanksgiving food example. My body felt what was on that Thanksgiving plate. Okay, that's what I just told you guys. Not because the food was evil. The food was not evil. The food was amazing. Also, not because I'm being like overly dramatic. Okay, it's because over the years I've eaten a ketogenic diet and my baseline for certain things in my system have changed. Right? I did go easy. I did things pre and post eating to mitigate the experience, but I could feel things as early as an hour or two later in my body. And then this morning when I woke up, and even now on this video with you guys, I can tell that I ate that way yesterday. The lesson then for me is when you heal and you regulate your nervous system and you do things like rest more and you set boundaries and you stop ignoring yourself and you use your identity to create a life that reflects you and you make small changes that are more consistent over time, what starts to happen is you create a new baseline for your wellness, for your life. And anything that is outside of that, your body starts to alert you to it. Your body will tell you the truth about things that are misaligned. Your body will start to tell you the truth about things that are misaligned. That's why a lot of the videos I've made for you guys recently, I talk about your nervous system, right? Because yeah, I'm out here eating all kind of greens and beans, tomatoes, potatoes, lamb, ham. Is that what it is? Hog, whatever she said. Does she say dog? I hope not. That'd be disgusting. Okay. And now I'm dealing with the inflammation and the fatigue of it all. Yeah. And the food was really good. But if I choose to eat like that on a continuing basis, my results are going to be the negative results, right? And so years ago, I had to choose to change how I ate. And now this is a rare occasion that my brain feels this foggy. It's a rare occasion that my joints are hurting. It's a rare occasion. You know how come? Because I chose to change and then things changed. Likewise, the person that you are becoming, dare I say, creating, she can't process life the same way as the woman you used to be. It's like I said before, it goes way beyond the food example, right? It's like for example, the people that you choose to have around. When inside of you, you could hear your brain saying, this season with this person is over. And the conversation you keep participating in, even though your chest tightens up every time you see the phone ring or that person walk in the room. What about the workload you keep agreeing to? Even though your body and your mind and your spirit keeps begging you to put something down, right? Or like the way you will full out abandon yourself the moment somebody raises an eyebrow because you learned that the only way to be safe is to smooth things over and to externally manage other people's emotions. A whole grown adult. What I've learned and what I want to tell you guys is when your baseline changes, everything misaligned with you will feel louder. Like me with the food. When your baseline changes, everything that's misaligned will feel louder. I'm sitting here right now and I got a few little post Thanksgiving aches and pains, and my brain feels kind of foggy while I'm reading these notes to you guys. But you know what? That's because what I ate yesterday was misaligned, right? And I've also learned it's not because I'm sensitive, I'm not overreacting, I'm not too much. I'm just awake and alert to what works best for me right now. My system no longer can go numb by default. I'm no longer in survival mode. I'm no longer willing to swallow things that don't belong in me. And I mean that with food and I mean that with life, right? Awareness amplifies everything. Healing sharpens your vision and makes you more aware. Alignment will clarify what does and does not belong. My body is actually advocating for me by throwing up the signals. It's telling me I can't go back to how I used to be, how I used to eat, situations I used to be in, because I know too much now. I know how they affect me. So let's talk a little bit now about when things feel familiar. And just because when things feel familiar, it doesn't mean that they're safe, right? When things feel familiar, it doesn't mean that we're safe. Oftentimes, we will stay exactly the same and try to make no changes because familiar feels easier than becoming somebody new. Familiar chaos will feel easier than unfamiliar peace. Familiar dysfunction will feel easier than unfamiliar boundaries. Familiar burnout will feel easier than unfamiliar rest. Your nervous system will choose the devil it knows every single time if you never learn what safety actually feels like. But like Dr. Kamani always says, sis, it's still the devil. All right. So you walk around saying you want a new job, but you still working with the old version of you who is terrified to ask for help and take up space at work. You tell people you want new boundaries, but you're holding on to a version of you who says yes when your insides are screaming, hell no, to the no, 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 right? Because there's a version of you that was trained to avoid disappointment, disappointing other people, but always to accept the disappointment on yourself. You say you want new habits, but you cling to a version of yourself who is used to overdoing everything. You're overeating, you're overreacting, you're overworking, you're overspending, you're overgiving, you're overfunctioning. And I'm not saying this to judge you. I'm not saying it's a weakness. I'm just saying that you practice this. This is a practice. It's not a weakness, it's a practice. This is where we have to be very compassionate with ourselves because we're not broken. We're conditioned. We're not flawed. It's just familiar, right? And oftentimes when something is familiar, we think that means it's safe. It's not safe. It's just predictable, right? Familiar will trick you into believing that that unsafe thing that's harming you is who you actually are. I remember when I was first diagnosed with depression back in the day, I thought the depression was me. Do you know how much work I had to do to separate the fact that Rushni was not the depression and the depressive thoughts and choices? You know why? Because the depressive thoughts and choices were familiar and I had no idea. I had no idea, right? Familiar is not the same as safe. Familiar is not the same as aligned. Familiar is not the same as good or good for you. Yesterday, I ate carbs for Thanksgiving. For years, many years ago, I ate carbs for years. And those carbohydrates contributed to joint pain and depression and brain fog and a partridge in a pear tree. And then guess what happened? It changed because I changed. And that's why there's such a stark difference between how I feel usually and how I felt after eating this Thanksgiving meal. All right. Nothing changes unless you change. That's not a judgment, sis. It's an invitation to change. If you want something to change, you have permission to choose something new, even if you've never seen another person around you model it. Matter of fact, pro tip, if you want something different and the people around you have never done it, do you have the internet? Look around, go find somebody else who's already done it and let them model it for you. All right. You have access to all these people. You have permission to teach your body what safety feels like slowly and over time. You have permission to step into uh, the feeling of peace, even if it feels foreign. The first time you feel peace, the second time, listen, the 100th time. You have permission to teach your body what peace feels like. You have permission to eat differently. Just because nobody in your family eats that way doesn't mean you don't have to. Um, I have all kinds of stuff that runs in my family. I just made a t-shirt design. It's not on my shop yet, but it literally says it ran in my family until it ran into me. Just because they didn't do it don't mean I'm not going to do it. You have permission to dress differently. Maybe you want to wear your hair differently. Maybe you want to make your money differently. Maybe you want to create different art and different relationships. Maybe your nervous system wants to learn something different and new. You can learn something new. You can shift your life. You can make different choices. Nothing will change unless you change it. Hey, Lori. Hi, Lori. Thanks for my pineapple. So, this idea of people wanting a loophole is what keeps people stuck, right? Is what keeps people stuck. Let me read you what I wrote again at the beginning. Let me go up here. Most people are actually not looking for change. They're looking for a loophole that lets them remain themselves while avoiding the consequences of remaining themselves. My God, my God. Okay. Most people want a loophole. They want a magic trick. They want a shortcut, a hack. They want a YouTube video. They want to watch my video, and at the end of the video, something is magically different in them. They want an affirmation, a subliminal, lucky girl syndrome, manifestation ritual, a 3-step process and system that helps them stay exactly the same while magically having a different outcome. But how can you have a different result when you do nothing different? There's no hack for that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there's no hack, that's going to happen. Laurie said Rushni's a good cook. Thank you, Laurie. While I sit here and tell people, ain't no hack for that, sis. I'm supposed to be out here trying to sell you snake oil, and what I'm trying to sell you is a life that you love that loves you back. Okay. That's what I'm trying to get you to. Okay. I could come up with a framework. I could come up with a framework for y'all, 2 steps. Okay. But that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. The math is not mathing, sis. This is why people will get frustrated and give up. This is why people make money off of promises that do not pan out. They want transformation, but they don't want to transition. They want the outcome, but they don't want to become someone different. Right? People running in churches, screaming, hollering, and falling out. They want the blessing, but they don't want to shift their identity to the person who can create it. It's a vending machine. They just wanted to fall out the sky. But becoming is the entire point. You're not literally supposed to stay the same. 2019 you and 2026 you ain't supposed to be the same you. And if that's the case, you kind of stuck, sis. Right? You're out here clinging to the version of you that built the trauma, not the peace, and then wondering why you still have trauma and not peace. Hacks and loopholes keep you busy, not changed. Amen. So let's talk about what change creating and becoming can actually look like with my foggy carbohydrate brain. I wonder how many, I hope I don't wake up tomorrow feeling like this. Okay, get this out of my system. Now, did I dibble dabble in just a touch of carbohydrates today as leftovers? Yeah, but I can't do no more. I can't. I don't like how I feel. Nothing, my food changed and everything changed. I'm not going back. Anyway, let's focus. Let's talk about what it's like to create something different, right? Because becoming, creating is not glamorous. Sometimes it's not postable. It's usually real quiet. And a lot of times it's inconvenient and messy. I was just talking to a coaching client recently about the messy middle. Everybody want a triumphant beginning and some beautiful buttoned up end, but nobody ever wants to do the stuff in the messy middle. Creating requires consistency that ironically is often very inconsistent. Like a baby learning to walk for the first time, falling all over the place, but falling forward. Stephanie Perry often says baby steps are steps too. Creating is often unsupported by the people who benefited from your old patterns. You're going to have to look for a new set of people to support you because often the people who benefited from your old version of you don't want you to change. What are you changing for? Sit down and overgive, overwork, over so I could get underneath you and I can undergive, underfunction, underwork. Okay. Creating happens in the moments of your smallest choices to aim in a direction that you have never aimed in before, that is more aligned with the life that you want. Creating is when you catch yourself before you automatically say yes to something that really is a no. Creating is when you stop eating something because you know how it's going to make you feel. Creating is when your body is like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And you don't do it. Creating is when you tell somebody the truth, even if your voice is a little shaky when you're doing it. It's a moment when you don't check out the cart online because you're saving money for something else. That's creating. Creating is the moment you admit to yourself that it's time to choose to change, right? And you tell yourself, I cannot create a version of me who loves her life and has a life that loves her back with last year's identity. And that's where most of us will get stuck. We will try to drag our old choices into our new season. The same choices that sabotaged us will sabotage us in the future. The old self, she's not evil. She's scared she gonna die. Okay. She thinks you're gonna off her, the old self, and she's trying to survive. This is what you do. You got to tell old you that we not gonna stay the same. You gotta talk to her. Okay, sis, I'm not gonna off you. I'm going to keep you here. We have to evolve, though. Nothing will change unless we change. Integrate that heifer. Take all the lessons that she has learned, and both of y'all keep pushing. And yes, am I talking to my about myself like it's a duality? Yes, because sometimes you have to encourage yourself. Okay, this is wisdom. This is wisdom. Lori says, I hit send by mistake. I know what you meant, Rushni is a great coach. I've been working with her for 2 years. With her help, I've accomplished so many of my goals. Thanks, Lori. I look forward to seeing you soon. Lori's such a good time. You can't take old you into the new season. You can't take old you's choices. You need to take old you, but you need to tell her that she's safe and tell her she can't drive. You got to get in the passenger seat and let the new version of me drive this thing, right? Becoming and creating is an act of bravery and courage. Most people stay the same. Like I said earlier in the video, at the beginning of the video, so many people that I encounter in coaching in my real life, they say they want a different outcome, but when they ask me about what to do to get the different outcome and I tell them what they can do, they don't want to do the thing. They just want the outcome. How, sweet? That's why it's such an act of courage to do something different, because most people won't. When you decide to make a different choice in your life, you're already ahead of the crowd. And it's evidence that you are capable of trusting yourself, right? It's like saying, I choose me in my life in every moment, and I deserve to create a life that I love and not just a life I am tolerating, right? So, as you heard, I have a virtual planning retreat that I run every single year. If you would like 2026 to feel radically different and not show up as the same person you were in 2025, 2024, and 2023, fighting for your life, okay, I have something for you. My Create Your Life virtual planning retreat starts on December 12th. You can find out more at bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. Um, I started, let's see, I think I counted and I've done a couple hundred women have done this planning retreat with me at this point, which is wild to me. That's wild. Let me tell you guys how this planning retreat started. I started this planning retreat because I realized nothing was going to change unless I changed it. It literally had nothing to do with you guys. I love you guys, I really do. But my life to change. Rushni's life had to change. And so before any thing that you guys are capable are willing are that is available to you. You see how the carbohydrates tried to take me out? Give me a second. There's green drinks in here. Okay. I forgot my other water bottle, my glass bottles. I had to go to plastic. Pray for my system. I'm trying to get it back together. Okay. For years, I would rent a buy, fill out. What do you call it when you get a hotel room? Get a hotel room? Come on, brain. In January, and I would do my own personal planning retreat. I called it my personal planning retreat. It was me, myself, and I, because that's all I had in the end. All right, Beyonce. And I would go in the hotel room and I would plan to take over the world. Why? Because nothing changes unless you change it. And I couldn't figure out how to change some of the things in my life, and nothing was changing. Over the years, I started to figure out some of the exercises and things that worked and things that did not work for me. And in January of 2020, I was in the hotel room, as I always was, doing my own personal planning retreat all by myself. I had a coaching call, and one of my coaching clients on the virtual call said, I would love to do your planning retreat with you. I said, I don't know what you mean. What does that mean? Because remember, January 2020, we were all still living our lives before we knew what was about to happen to us. A couple months later, the whole world shut down and everything went online. And in January of 2021, I did the planning retreat with 50 plus women in January and February of 2021 for free. And a time was had. Okay. And that was how the planning retreat started being something I offered in the coaching, as opposed to just something I did every year by myself. I designed it to build on itself, and it has borne amazing fruit in my own life. It is not a planning retreat that I made to sell y'all anything. It's literally a decade plus evolution of my own personal planning retreat, because nothing changes unless you change it. So, with that said, boo boo, okay, if you would like to join us, bit.ly/virtual planning retreat. I'm going to close the numbers soon because we're almost at the cap of people, and I don't want it to be too big of a group of women. I'm going to do it in December and June. So once this cohort is filled, I'm going to close it so that the accountability calls are not too monstrous. Right. And then you'll have the opportunity to sign up for the June retreat. The price will go up on December 1st, which is this upcoming Monday, and the price will never be as low as it is again. Amen. So if you're interested in coming and joining us, I would love to have you. Thank you for being here. If you were watching live or if you're watching on the replay, thank you for showing up for yourself, and pray for me and these carbohydrates, because my brain is like, what? I'm sure when I go watch this back, I'm going to be like, why do I look like I'm swimming? Remember, ladies, nothing will change, nothing, unless You change it, right? Be well, be encouraged, keep creating. Ugh, here's a pineapple. Bye, y'all.